Hey YouTube family, it's Sarah. It's Tuesday and I am back with another video in as many days. Wow, it's a shocker. 2 in a row. I'm actually really excited to share the information in this video with you guys because I think it's something that's really useful for people who are considering weight loss surgery, who are pre-op, post-op, even if you're further out. I think it's something that really hit home for me because it just shows how similar our journeys are when it comes to our post-weight loss surgery life. This came up because I'd had a discussion with some friends and we were talking about I guess all the common things that people go through, or phases or stages that people go through post-weight loss surgery. And we were talking about that phase where you feel like you know everything and you can't fail, and you know you're kicking ass and taking names, and you can sometimes come off a bit judgmental when it comes to other people's journeys. And I feel like I went through that stage. Maybe I'm still going through it. I don't know. But it was just something that was really interesting to me, the fact that our journeys can be so common post-surgery. And that's not necessarily the physical journey so much as the mental journey. So it brought to mind something that my friend Dawn, Diz's Journey, had shared with me last year in August. And I looked it up online because I wanted to find it and share it with you guys and let you know how you can sort of get more information if you're interested. So this, it comes from something called the WLS Stages of Transformation by Katie J, who is the director of the National Association for Weight Loss Surgery. I'm going to put a link below to their website. I believe that she has either like an e-publication or something that is that talks about all of these stages more in depth. This is just like a super quick overview. And I haven't actually read all of the stuff that she's put out there about this. But I definitely wanted to say this isn't something that I came up with. This was something that was written by Katie J. And that's Katiejay. But I did think it was something that was worth sharing. So this is what she calls a brief overview of the WLS Stages of Transformation. So the first one is decision point. The patient decides to have weight loss surgery. I'm sure that we're all familiar with this as weight loss surgery patients. Everyone gets to that point where they finally make the decision that they need to make a change in their life and that surgery is going to be the best option for them. That's obviously, not that interesting as far as the stage goes, but you got to go through that one to get to the other ones. The second one is one that I'm sure we're all familiar with. She calls it shock and awe. The patient begins to feel buyer's remorse or in awe of how little they can eat. All you have to do is watch post-op videos, watch people who are like a week to 3 weeks post-op, and you'll see a lot of this. And I'm sure that we've probably all gone through this to one degree or another. You start to have regrets about surgery. You are, even though you've been told, you've seen how little you can eat, how crazy your restriction is, it is hard to really understand until you're in the situation where, you can't drink 2 ounces of water or, you can't eat an ounce of food. It is something that you kind of have to go through to understand. The third one is grief and loss. The patient feels sad about the loss of some foods, rituals, or even friends. Again, I think people go through that in various ways and to varying degrees, but it's definitely something that I think you'll see with a lot of people's journey, that they do have a time period where they mourn. They mourn for food they used to eat, or rituals was a good one, because sometimes it's not about food, but it's about the things that surround food, whether that's socially, whether it's just a habit. That's something that I think we all have to go through that sort of mourning period of relearning how food fits into our new lives. The fourth one she calls the miracle. The patient feels invincible, like they will never overeat again. And that's sort of where I think that stage that I was talking about comes in, where you feel like, this is amazing, you've got this, you are dropping weight like crazy, you're having no problem sticking to your diet. And again, that's not everybody. Some people have, issues right from the beginning, but I know for me, it was never easy, but sticking to it was not the hard part. The hard part was figuring out, what I could tolerate, how much I should eat, what kinds of things I should eat. But sticking to it, there was a time period when that was not the problem. I'll tell you that now it is. So that's maybe the time period where you start to be overconfident even. And it's hard to understand, again, unless you've been through it, why it gets more difficult as time goes on to avoid certain foods, because at this point you still feel like this is great. You may not even be hungry at all. You probably have lost the taste or the appetite for certain, bad foods or trigger foods. I know that happened to me, but it doesn't last. The next one is testing limits. The patient goes back to foods that used to trigger them to overeat, like sweets. Behavioral limits are tested too in this stage. Relationships can change, interpersonal boundaries can shift, and transfer addictions can begin to take hold. So I think the testing limits phase is, part of it is that overconfidence, where you think, okay, I've got this, now I can start, adding back in this or that, or I can eat a bit more, or I can do whatever it is. And I think it's natural for people to do that, and certainly, I've done that, and it makes sense too that this is the stage in which you can start to fall victim to things like transfer addictions or just changes in your relationships, because there's so many changes going on in general in your body, your lifestyle, and because you still are on that weight loss high. And there is something intoxicating about that rapid weight loss and seeing the results so quickly and everyone complimenting you and feeling like, you've changed everything. But again, that doesn't last. The scale doesn't go down forever, and people don't continue to compliment you after a certain amount of time. So it is sort of a, I don't know that I would say a dangerous point, but a point that you have to look out for. And I don't think there's a specific timeline here. I think everyone comes to these phases at a different part of their journey. The next one is the end of Invincible. The honeymoon ends and the patient's eating can more easily affect weight loss or weight maintenance. So, all good things must come to an end. And certainly I think there are a lot of people who, would agree with that there is a point at which you realize that, actually I can't eat X, Y, Z and still maintain my weight. And that realization may happen for different reasons. It may be weight gain even before the losing phase is over. It may be, regain after maintenance. But I think that it's true that probably everyone does get to the point where that realization occurs to them that, your tool doesn't work exactly the same way forever, and you still need to have good habits to be successful in the long term. The next one she calls give up or change. The patient realizes that if they don't make changes, they will gain weight or stop losing. So that's kind of the kick in the ass part, the wake up call, where you realize that you need to stay committed. And I know a lot of people who have been through that. I have been through that myself for sure. I think that, as I've gone through this, I've been trying to think of where I am in this process or where these stages are. So I'll talk about that more sort of when I'm done. But definitely I think it's important to sort of gauge, where am I in this process and what do I have to look forward to? The next one is learning. The patient opens up and learns to pinpoint what their real problems are, not what they assume they are. I think that one is super important. And again, I think that can happen at different points. Some people, it might not happen till they are close to goal. It may not happen till after goal. It may not happen till they've been maintaining for a long time. But I said in my last video, and I believe this to be true, that you need to recognize and work on the reasons why you became overweight if you hope to actually maintain and be successful with weight loss over the long term. Because if you don't identify and work towards fixing those things, then it is just too easy to fall back into the habits that made you obese in the first place. Experimenting. The patient goes through a trial and error process to discover what will work for them. Self-trust. The patient develops a sense of self-trust and self-care that was previously non-existent. I think those two things kind of go together to some degree. I think, there comes a point in your journey when you realize that you do need to care for yourself and that you need to make this a long-term change, a lifestyle, not a diet, and that there are certain things you may not be able to do forever, and you learn how to incorporate things that you feel like you can't live without into a long-term plan for success. So, you know, I think the motto for weight loss surgery patients should be never say never. Because saying, you know, I'm never going to eat a cookie again is probably not realistic. I mean, I'm 36. There's nothing I would say at this point I will never eat again. You know, I tried to give myself rules about what I was and wasn't going to eat for the first, you know, X amount of time. And I mostly stuck to those things. But, you know, at this point, there's nothing I would say I wouldn't eat or, you know, it's more just about learning how to moderate those things or how to balance them and what's going to work for you personally. Mastery. The patient regains some control and begins to experience some peace of mind with food, their body, and the scale. I think that's really the point that we all want to get to. And that's kind of, again, what I was talking about in my last video is wanting to feel like I am happy with not just the scale, but with the way I'm eating, with my body, and the scale too. It's not that it's not important to me at all. I just don't want it to be the thing. And the last one is freedom. The patient sees what they really want to do, what they must do to stay healthy, and what they must do to stay healthy are one and the same. And I mean, I think that's where we all want to be. We want to be at a place where we are happy with the changes that we've made and where it's just second nature. And we don't feel deprived. We feel like we can live a full and healthy life. So those are I think there's 12 WLS stages of transformation: decision point, shock and awe, grief and loss, the miracle, testing limits, end of Invincible, give up or change, learning, experimenting, self-trust, mastery, and freedom. So as I was looking over this the other night, I was trying to figure out where I think I am in this process. And it's funny because I feel like I could be anywhere in the last probably 6 of these things. I think that realistically, I am probably at the give up or change point. You know, my honeymoon period is definitely over, but I don't feel like I've gotten to the learning point yet. I'm just starting a little bit of that experimenting phase, to be honest, and trying to find out what's going to work for me long term. But I don't think I've dealt with the why and the true issues with why I became obese. So I think I might give up or change. And, you know, I feel like I actually have a good grasp of that at this point. You know, I do understand that my body holds on to weight easily, and it does not take much for me to not lose or even to gain weight. I really don't have to do much. And exercise does make a difference, but really eating is the thing for me personally that makes the biggest difference. You know, I'm always going to have to be on a very probably low calorie diet to even maintain the weight that I'm at now. That's okay. You know, it is what it is. I've kind of come to the point where I have learned to accept that and just kind of move on. But, you know, I still do struggle with that some days. So I think I'm kind of at the end of give up or change and just coming into that learning part. So, yeah, I mean, I would love to hear what you guys think about this. And I do think it's a really great educational kind of tool, especially when you're pre-op or just newly post-op, to understand kind of what's coming up and what to expect on this journey. And, you know, hopefully we all get to that mastery and freedom part of the journey. Not everyone will, to be honest. You know, I'm sure we all know people who didn't ever quite make it to that point. But that's what I think the real success is, when you can make it to the point that you are happy and healthy and in control of all of those things, not just the scale, but everything having to do with yourself and your life. Not just, you know, how much you weigh or what you put in your mouth or what size your pants are, but the reasons behind why you became obese in the first place and how you're going to stay away from that moving forward. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Hope that you enjoyed it. I will see you on Friday for my 76-week update. Always remember, it's not just about what you've lost, it's about what you've gained. Have a great day.